For our high plank movement here, we'll have our hands directly underneath our shoulders, rolling our shoulders back and away from the ears. We'll be setting up our feet at about hip width apart and ensuring that our trunk is nice and stiff to reduce any low back movement. From the side here, you can see that we want to maintain a nice straight line from that shoulder down to the hip, all the way down to the heel. We'll set up our hands directly underneath our shoulders with our feet nice and wide in a V formation to help us restrict any rotation at our hips and our shoulders, as we want to ensure that those are nice and in line with each other. In this position, we're really pressing the floor away with that stance arm as the opposite arm comes up and taps the opposite shoulder, making sure that our shoulders stay away from our ears and that we're maintaining a nice stiff trunk to resist any movement in our back. You'll start in your high plank position and then just drop down to your knees, having your hands directly underneath your shoulders, rolling your shoulders back so they're away from the ears. And then as you push down into that push-up, your elbows should be about 45 degrees from your body. So you don't want them rubbing against your ribs, but you also don't want them up by your ears. Making sure that you stiffen your trunk to prevent any low back movement, and then really press that floor away as you come up to the top. So for our hands elevated push-up here, you'll set up your hands directly underneath your shoulders. Once again, your feet will be about hip width apart. You'll be stiffening your trunk the entire range of motion to prevent any movement in the low back. In this push-up position, you want to make sure that your elbows and your shoulders move together. So as your elbows come up to the sky, your shoulders are rolling back as well, staying away from your ears and ensuring you're breathing through the whole exercise, and enjoy. For our push-up pattern, we'll set up our hands directly underneath our shoulders, rolling our shoulders back so they're away from the ears. We'll have our feet at about hip width apart. Throughout the whole movement, we'll have a nice stiff trunk to reduce any movement in that low back. And then as we lower down to the ground, we want to make sure that our hips and our shoulders are moving at the same time, so the body moves as one piece. And lastly, we want to ensure that we're not touching our chest or our legs to the ground at all, so we're just coming down to a hover above the floor.